For those of you who were, yep, there we go. Hi, everybody. My name is Martin Moran. I'm the lead designer, director of the upper school here at Bennett Day School. I'm here with 5 of our current students who are going to talk a little bit about their experience. I'm going to ask them some questions. We're going to have a little conversation and give everybody a sense of what it's like to be a student at Bennett Day. And then at the end of those conversations, at the end of that question and answer, if you have any questions, feel free to put it in the chat next door over here, and we'll try to get to all the questions. If we don't get to your question today, we'll be happy to send us. Be happy to take it back and send Ms. Kastrunas will send you an email with our answers for it. So, with that, I'd like to start by having each of our students have the opportunity to introduce themselves. So, can we start on my screen here? I see Rakaya, you're in the upper left-hand corner. Would you mind going first? And then we'll go Camilla, Abby, Christian, and Cam.
Hi, my name is Rakaya. I'm a 9th grader at Bennett Day. I've been here, this is my 2nd year.
Camilla?
Hello, my name is Camilla. I'm a 10th grader and I've been here for 2 years.
Hi, my name is Abby. I'm a 9th grader and this is my 1st year here.
Hi, my name is Christian. I've been here for 1 year and I am a 9th grader.
Hi, my name is Camden. I'm a 10th grader and I've been at Bennett Day for 2 years now.
Great. So we're going to start by asking a few questions. I'm going to throw questions to some of the kids here, and we're going to try to get into all the sort of parts of Bennett Day life and what it's like to be a student. So I'm going to start with the question, with a nice straightforward question. And I'm going to start with Camilla and Abby. I'm going to ask you guys to start us off. What's your favorite thing about being a student at Bennett Day School? Camilla, why don't you start us off?
So my favorite thing about being at Bennett Day is that there's a very strong sense of community between the teachers and the students. And I feel like the teachers are very passionate about their jobs. Bennett Day is a big believer in productive distress. And so the teachers will let you go through the process of learning in this type of environment. But if the students feel the need to reach out, the teachers will 100% be there. And that's as long as you advocate for yourself. And I feel because Bennett is more of a small school, it's very personalized, and there are a lot of moments for teachers and students to bond and to just build a lot of connections. And I feel that's been very impactful, and it's my favorite thing about Bennett.
Great. Camilla, what you said you use the phrase productive distress. What have you had a moment of productive distress that you can remember that comes to mind?
I think it's every trimester before demo night. One time that sticks out was the 2nd trimester demo night, which was about immigration, and my group made a water filtration system, and we had a lot of different parts and pieces that stopped working in last minute. So that was very stressful, but I feel it really pushed me and motivated me to put all my effort into it. So it's not a nice feeling in the moment, but in retrospect, it's very helpful.
Great. Rakaya, can I ask you a quick question to help out? Because Camilla mentioned demo night. Could you explain to everybody what demo night is before, so we can make sure that we all understand that?
Yes. So demo night is our kind of final project night. After every trimester, every 12 weeks, we take our learning and we put it into something that we either build or create. So this year we did a mock election. So it's a chance to take everything that we've learned and just show it to people in a way that is fun instead of just a test.
Did you have what's your best demo night story, Rakaya?
I think it was the 2nd demo night. Our topic was human migration, and our group was very stressed out, but in the end we did it and we were able to just talk to people about it, and I felt really proud. It was kind of fun.
What'd you build? I remember distinctly you guys working at the last maybe 10 minutes before we opened. I remember you putting some last touches on it. What were you building?
We were doing a model of a museum, So we had like posters and stuff, and we put them around the library, and we kind of made it so that people could walk around and look at our things as if it was a real museum. And also, in our in-person demo nights, we're each assigned jobs. And so you can be like, if you give a speech, you could be like a manager and kind of like set the whole night up. And yeah, so those were important too.
Great. Abby, so I'm going to come back to that original question. What's been your favorite thing as a student who's newer to the school? What's been your favorite thing about Bennett Day?
To add on to Camilla, I think it's really easy to ask questions to the teachers, especially if you're struggling with different concepts. It's really easy to get one-on-one time, virtually and in person. You can ask teachers now for Zoom meetings if you need any help with concepts. Also in person, it's really easy to email them like the night before, and they'll pull you out of class to have a meeting with you. And we also do weekly check-ins to an advisory. So it's really easy to create strong connections with your teacher, especially when you need them.
Have you had a moment where you had to reach out and you got a chance to chat with a teacher or got some specific help that you were like struggling with at a moment?
Yeah, during math, I was struggling a lot with some skills. So I reached out to our math teacher and I basically explained to her like what I needed help with, and she kind of walked me through the entire assignment, and I was able to get it done on time. Also with understanding of the concept. Great.
All right, we're gonna come back here to Rakaya. I'm gonna since you're a ninth grader, but you've been at Bennett Day for 2 years, and you came from a more traditional school, if I'm right. You came from Skinner, correct, Rakaya? Is that right? Yeah. What was the easiest thing, and what was the most difficult thing to adapt to coming to Bennett from a school that was more traditional than ours?
Something that was easy to adapt to was the close relationships with the teachers. My last school had the same amount of teachers that Bennett has, maybe less than the upper school, but we also had much bigger class sizes. So here at Bennett, we were able to like build a close relationship with our teachers and get to know them, and like they get to know us and actually understand us and care. So that was definitely easy to get used to because it was nice like having those like adults. I think the hardest thing, weirdest thing was the actual subjects, because instead of having every subject every day, we have them spread throughout the week and like the trimesters, which definitely puts less stress on us, but it was kind of weird to get adjusted to.
Great. So in terms of how did you adjust to that? What was your strategy for adjusting to that like very, very different schedule where you might have history one day and then you would have science the next, and they wouldn't meet every single day. How did you adjust to that?
In person or online?
Either or, whichever one you prefer.
Well, in person it was easier, I think, to have the subjects spread out like that because you had time to like actually do your homework. So when I had I guess this year when we had history one day, it would give me time to do my homework. So I would set aside a period to do homework after that instead of have to go to another class. And then on Wednesdays when we had half days, we had like a few classes, and I guess it was just easier. I just planned it out, my time to do homework.
Great. One of the things about our school that's very different from a traditional school is the fact that we don't have traditional grades. We don't use A, B, C, D, F. We have the competency-based assessment, and it's certainly, I'm guessing for all of you who came from more traditional schools, that's something that was probably a little bit different than what you remember. So when we think about this idea of assessment and assessment at our school, and the idea of how you as a student know how you're doing as a student when you don't get the type of grade-based feedback that some other schools get. What do you feel like assessment's like, and how do you feel like you know what you're doing when you don't get a letter grade? I'm gonna throw this one over to Cam. Tell me a little bit about that.
So I have a very good relationship with my teachers, and that allows me to have one-on-one meetings weekly to go over work from the week of and look ahead to see what work is coming in the next week. When I meet with my teachers, I receive verbal and written feedback on my current work. When I get the feedback, it's not a final grade. It's a way to learn more and improve. For example, after a meeting I had with Mr. Moran, I came out with lots of tips on how to comprehend certain articles better. This then helped me complete the next assignment way easier because I got tools from the meeting to
Cam,
help
when
me
you
out.
had that assignment you were struggling on, do you remember the conversation we had? What was it that you were coming in with that you were like, that you felt like you were struggling with at that time, if you remember right?
I think it was getting like the little facts out of it. Like I would get the big picture of the article, but there were some things that were kind of like hidden in the article that I didn't
And how did you
necessarily
use
pick
that
up on.
after you got the feedback and the assessment? How did you use that going forward? How did that change the way you approach the stuff you read?
I kind of broke it up and I didn't just read through it once, because when I read through something right away, I don't pick up all the certain like feedback that's in the article. So if I break it up, like sometimes paragraph by paragraph, or even like the beginning, like the first two sections and then the bottom two sections, then that helps me pick up more in the article.
Great. In terms of feedback, when we think about this idea of feedback, I just want to have one more follow-up question for you. When you get this type of feedback, how do you manage to like get the feedback and then act on it? What's the process like? So like, let's say you met with a teacher or you turned in an assignment, let's say a couple weeks ago you did a final paper for history. All right. It was for demo night. It was the final one you were going to present. How did you walk through that process of getting feedback? What was your process like? Because you wrote the paper that was going to be displayed for the public. Could you walk us through like what was that process like for you?
So I finished the paper, and then I still had a couple days before it was like had to be finalized. So I sent a message to Mr. Moran on Remind, and just asking him if he could look over my paper and give me some edits or suggestions, so I could make those changes before the final date. Because there was still time left, I was able to reach out and get feedback from Mr. Moran and Miss Yeager.
And then how did you use that feedback then? Did you revise based on that feedback?
Yeah, I revised it there. I mean, the paper is not going to be perfect the first time you write it. So after getting two eyes on it, it helped me make changes. There were some lots of changes that I had to make, but I'm glad that I reached out and I got that help, because my paper is a lot better than it was.
Great. Okay, so we've talked a lot about this idea of demo night. Rakaya introduced it. Cam, you were just talking a little bit about demo night as well. Christian, this was your first demo night. So this was last week. Last week we had our first demo night, or our final presentations for class. What was your experience like with demo night this year, at being your first one? What was it? What was your preparation like? How did you work through it? What was demo night like?
Well, honestly, I'm going to just start off. It was a really fun, exciting night, just because when we did do demo night, well, at the beginning of it, we had to do the election, and we were reading, or the speakers were reading through their election, and we would, on the side, we would be cheering each other on our phones. We would just be like, "Oh yeah, you guys did real good," and that was it was a real fun night. And then when we went after that, we split up into our own meetings on Google Meet, and it was kind of a long wait because you have to let people rotate through the meets. But since the Benedict community has a lot of connections, they sent in some people that could really give you some hard questions when you're talking about your not experiments but your projects. So like, for example, when I was inside one of my meets, the Bennett Day, the person that works to endorse the actual school and spread online, to spread the school's, I don't know what the word would be, but just to spread the school's picture online, she came into my meet, and that was one of the most interesting talks I've had in a while. So it was honestly a really fun night, and I look forward to doing
What kind of questions did she ask you about your project?
One of the questions was, since I did a project concerning Instagram and spreading news about my project through Instagram, she was saying, would you continue to do it after demo night? And would you keep on posting to promote this problem that's going on? And that one I did not think about, because I just thought of it as a project at that moment in time and not as something that I could keep on expanding, and I can include more people on it, get more followers on it, and just grow. So yeah.
Are you thinking that might be something you look at in the future?
Maybe. Maybe.
Okay. Now this was obviously a one of the remote demo nights. This was a remote demo night, and I'm going to quickly. I know, Camilla, you mentioned demo night last year. What do you notice? What was the difference between the in-person and the virtual demo nights? Could you tell me a little bit about what those two were like?
I think the in-person demo night, there's a lot more preparation to do in terms of like organizing everything. And I feel like the students have more of a role in setting up like the chairs and getting speeches ready, making sure the mics work and everything. So there's a lot more responsibility that we have in person, whereas online, Miss VP, which is one of our teachers, she like sets up the websites and everything. And so I feel like that's one of the main differences. But in terms of like the environment, I feel like in person, it's a lot more communal, like the stress. And I guess it's kind of comforting because everybody's very sympathetic towards each other and it's easier to connect. But either way, online, I feel like we still like have a way to do that, whether that's like creating Google Meets or texting each other. But yeah,
You can share as much or as little as you want about this, but I remember second trimester last year, right before we went away for COVID, we had our second trimester demo night, and in the morning, I distinctly remember getting kicked out of the library by all you students. And what was the reason behind why you kicked all the teachers out of the library and wanted to just have a student meeting?
Well, a lot of us felt very stressed out with this trimester because it was a lot heavier in terms of work. And so we felt like it was important to kind of like actually let each other know, like give each other support and let each other know that we're like there for each other. And I guess like the roles are a little bit different between like the teachers and the students in terms of demo night. And so we just wanted to like get together to, I guess, like comfort each other and help each other through and kind of lay out a plan that was going to help us be successful for the night. So yeah, that was the whole thing. Yeah.
Great. That's sort of leading me to another question, and Rakai, I'm going to come over to you on this. It's a smaller group of students at Bennett Day. There was a question asked about how many students per grade, and we have only about 15 students per grade right now as we grow. But what's it like socially to be in a school where we have about 30 students as opposed to a school that might have 3,000 students? What's the difference? What do you notice as what your social life is like to be in a school that's currently growing, but on the smaller side?
Honestly, it is really nice. It's nice to just know that you have people that you can connect with on like a really personal level. Sure, at like CPS, you may like, or like bigger schools, you may know of everybody, but you don't really like know everybody, which like we do at Bennett. And back to the second trimester demo night, we were all feeling like stressed, which we had like talked to each other about. And so we decided that we were all just gonna like come together and just let each other know that we are gonna be there for each other. And if anybody needed help with their projects, like for that day, we would be there for each other because we have that like bond, which you may not have at like a bigger school. So it's really nice.
When you say all, what do you? Just to be clear, what do you mean by all?
What do you mean?
Like the idea is like what percentage of the students were in that meeting?
Oh, 100% of the students. Everybody that walked in the front door, we were like coming to the library and we all like just were talking. And it wasn't just like, obviously it was kind of like weird, but like a few people like started it and then we all like got a chance to like talk and like express ourselves. It wasn't just like a few people talking.
So thinking about that idea of being a small school again, one of the things, and I'm going to start here. I'm going to come back to you, Rakaya, on this as well. But then I'm going to open it up to anybody else who wants to mention this because I think it's probably one of the most important things that I think students mention to me at least about the experience such far. But I'm going to ask about your relationship to your teachers. I want to talk to all of you, or have any of you who want to speak up about your relationship with your teachers. But first, I want to ask, one of the things that goes into social life of schools is this idea of discipline. Obviously, at schools, sometimes things go a little awry, and schools have different approaches to how they treat kids when things don't quite go the way that they're supposed to go. What's been your experience with the idea of school discipline at Bennett Day? And I'm going to come right back at you, Rakaya, with that one.
So our teachers don't really believe in like harsh punishments like detention or like suspension. They think that everything that we do comes with a consequence that like can compensate, I guess, for our actions. I remember this one time last year, a few of us, we were messing around on the roof and one of us accidentally like fell and into the heater. And we didn't think anything of it like at first, so we just went back downstairs. But I think it was like the next day, Mr. Moran asked us to like come sit with him, and he told us that the heater was broken, and he asked us to tell him like what happened, and we did, and then we realized that since the maintenance staff had to spend their time fixing it, we were gonna help them straighten up the cafeteria for a few weeks as a natural consequence.
Why that consequence for that? What was the logic behind that consequence?
Since they had to like spend their time doing something that we broke, fixing something that we broke, we would help them clean so that they didn't have to do everything at once or put everything into their schedule.
Okay, great. So building on that idea of both sort of natural consequences, but always thinking about everything as kind of like everything is sort of an ebb and flow, right? When you mess up like we all do, the idea is that you have to make what we call restore. You have to restore what you took away, but at the same time, it's not about punishment, right? It's not about the idea like. I guess I can ask any of you guys. Have any of you guys ever gotten a detention from me? No.
No.
No. Or a suspension? Have any of you guys gotten in a little bit of trouble at one point? Maybe a little bit. All right, good. So the idea is that it's very much about what's the consequence based on everybody's actions have impact, right? So when we think about this idea of actions having impact, one of the most important actions and impact that you guys experience is your relationship with your teachers. Now I'm going to quickly go back. Abby, I'd like to come back to you because you talked a little bit about it earlier. In terms of your relationships, you're a student who's only been here. This is your first year. In that amount of time, what's been your relationship with your teachers? How has that developed in that short amount of time?
All the teachers are really friendly, and they also have like kind of basically like the same way of teaching, because I know in like a public school, I used to go to Disney too, and I feel like all the teachers had a different way of teaching, and it was kind of hard because some were like really strict and some were like not strict at all. So I feel like everyone is on the same page, and also all of them have like an idea of what every subject is doing. So it's really easy to talk to them about whether it's a science. I'm talking to the PBL teacher about history. It's really easy to talk to any of the teachers, whichever one you feel comfortable with. And for the most part, all of their schedules are flexible enough that you can kind of go into, like, as I touched on before, one-on-one meetings when you have to.
So in terms of those one-on-one meetings, have you ever had one that's been especially beneficial?
Yes, I feel like I've had a couple for math, and all of those have been really beneficial because I'm someone who struggles a lot with math. So having someone there, like a one-on-one meeting with the teacher, explaining step through step what I have to do and how like I can benefit myself to understand the concept better. I feel like that was definitely something that helped me a lot, and it also helped me to problem solve more, so that I know for the future what type of questions I have to ask myself before reaching out for help like all the time.
Great. So I'm gonna take that a little bit of a step further. For those of you, the rest of you, I'm gonna open up this question. What's been your best teacher, best experience with my teacher story that you've had in the time that you're here? Camilla, why don't we start? I think you might be able to answer this one.
One of the best experiences I had, one of our teachers, Miss VP, she was like the head of, or like the teacher head of our group in trimester 1, and we studied like people for that trimester, people of Chicago, and my group was really interested in taking field trips to see different things, and we connected with the other group, which was studying gentrification, and we were able to like create a meeting with the one of the like leaders in the Pilsen Alliance, and we like interviewed him, and we were able to ask him questions that were corresponding to our like main project. And I feel like that kind of shows how like she was very willing to help us with the stuff that we wanted to do rather than what is like assigned. And I guess like that's one of the best experiences I've had with a teacher here.
Great, that's terrific. Anyone else have a teacher story that they have in which they feel like they connected really closely with their teacher?
I have one.
Go ahead.
So, I mean, there were a few, but I think one this trimester was when we met Miss Moran, and we were kind of just going over like things that could help me plan out my time better for history, because we had a few assignments, and you were telling me that that things were going to kind of like speed up as the trimester went along. So you helped me like plan times to do like work that'll get me to do it efficiently and not feel stressed. So that helped a lot.
Thank you. And also thank you for choosing one that involved me. I always like that. Well done. So thinking about this, you know, one of the other parts of school that's obviously a big piece that a lot of students who are looking, and I'm sure you guys did when you were looking at high schools, a lot of questions that I tend to get when I do open houses and things like that is the question that I get often from students is what's homework like? What's homework at Bennett Day School like? How does it feel? Because that's obviously something that's on students' minds all the time. So if you guys could tell me a little bit, I'm going to come back to you, Camilla, on this one. What's been your experience with homework at Bennett Day?
I think it's been a very different, but like it's been like a very beneficial experience. Teachers are very thoughtful when assigning work, whether that's like discussions or answering questions or more like hands-on things. And so it doesn't really feel like the busy work that I would be assigned at like a public school or a traditional school. And the homework like directly connects to like the skills that we're working on and like the competencies, which is really nice because I feel like it makes everything like kind of stay organized. And so like because of that, we don't really get a lot of homework compared to what other schools might give. So it's very nice because it's like we're actually allowed to focus on what we want to focus on, because it's more like personalized. I know like some like in PBL we're allowed to choose like the direction that we want to study or what we want to study, and so it's more engaging and meaningful than what I had experienced in other schools.
Explain what you mean by that when you say more meaningful.
Well, because we're the ones like choosing what we want to learn, it's more engaging, and I feel like I like personally I took a lot more things or a lot more like concepts away or like knowledge away from what I would typically learn. It doesn't just slip your mind because you spent so much time on something you're actually passionate about.
Great. So in terms of homework, and I'll throw this out to anybody who wants to answer it. There are some times during the year where the homework does tend to get pretty sizable. When does that typically happen, and how do you manage it? So does anybody want to take a shot at like when in the first trimester did you feel like the homework started to really pile on you, and you really had to sort of figure out how to manage that time?
I can take that one. So it kind of picks up near demo night. I wouldn't say like right before demo night. It's kind of like a week or two leading up to demo night, where your work and your research kind of starts getting a lot more like heavier. And I think the way I kind of this trimester was just kind of like taking it class by class and checking in, like I talked about earlier, just checking in with my teachers, like if I was having issues in that class on the work or the homework that.
What happens for anybody? What happens if you're having a night where you're just like completely slammed and you're not able to get to homework? What do you typically do when that kind of thing, when all of a sudden life happens and you're not able to finish it? How do you guys handle that in those moments?
We'd usually reach out to one of our teachers and let them know like what's going on and asking like for an extension, like, hey, this is going on. I was wondering if I could like have till like this day or like this time to do it, and you guys will most likely always say yes, and you'll just say, so what's like just like what's your plan? Like, do you like what day are you gonna do it? What day are you gonna turn it in? And then we get that extra day.
Great. Abby, were you going to add something to that? I saw you go off mute there.
Yeah, I know for history class, there are some days that I had to ask for an extension, and you always said yes. And it was always either the next day I would turn in the assignment or even a couple days later. But I was still able to get the work done, even though there was like some times that I wasn't able to get the work done at the desired due date.
I'm going to switch gears a little bit, and I know all of you guys are either freshmen or sophomores, 9th or 10th graders, and so it's kind of early to ask this type of question. So this isn't one that you should probably have the perfect answer to yet. But thinking ahead, so you're 2 or 3 years away from, maybe I guess 3 or 4 years away from moving on to something beyond Bennett Day, whether it's college or whatnot. What do you guys have? What are some things that you have found, even in the last couple months or in your experience thus far at Bennett Day, that has kind of made you think like, oh, this is something I might want to do in my life, or it's something I'm really intrigued by that might be really interesting to me, that I might want to do maybe after I graduate, or maybe even just outside of school. It's something that I'm starting to find is meaningful to me. So I'm gonna move over to you, Christian. What's something that you have sort of had a moment to say, maybe this is something I might want to do afterwards?
I've had a lot of those moments. So like maybe I'll switch up like every 2 months. Like, wow, that is a really, really nice career. And some of them are like, I'll go to automotive engineering, and I know there's a Tesla dealership like right next to the school. So I think that could be a connection there. And then another one I've had is marine biology. So it can just go either way for me, but I've been planning out a little bit.
Good.
I just don't know exactly what I want to do.
You shouldn't. You absolutely shouldn't. That's good to hear. Abby, how about you?
For like a really long time now, I've been really interested in going to like the topic of social justice and criminal justice. I know my mom always brought it up and always gave me books and articles to read when I was like around 8 years old about issues that were happening today. But I think like even this trimester, it really made me want to do it even more, just because in PBL we kind of got to connect our own experiences with issues that were going on today. Our topic was civic participation and democracy, and we kind of got to pick our own issue that we felt like really passionate about and do a project on it and do kind of like an action towards it to benefit people who were kind of being affected by this consequence. So I chose gentrification, and I basically went out and gave out free clothes to the community because I know my community is being gentrified at the moment. So I feel like all of that and being able to connect it back to my own experiences, it kind of made me push further to maybe one day pursuing like something, a career in that area.
Great, great. I'm going to put you guys on the spot and see if anybody wants to answer it. I know, Christian, you just mentioned this. One of the things that all the Bennett Day students do, and obviously you guys haven't done them yet, but will do very soon probably, is an internship. Can anybody think of a place that they would like to intern in the next couple of years they think would be cool in Chicago? Christian, I know you mentioned one already.
Probably either any car dealership or the Shed Aquarium. That would be cool. I know. Awesome. Yeah.
Anywhere else?
What are those like therapist offices, like the more like intimate or like the smaller ones? I'd like to internship there, or like maybe like a hospital, because I want to do something with psychology or like be like a psychiatrist.
Like an individual psychologist or a psychiatrist office?
Yeah.
Oh, great. Awesome. Okay, so thinking about going back to this big question, and one of the things about what we do is obviously not traditional. It's not what probably a lot of your peers at other schools do in terms of the way we do things. And so oftentimes you have to think about like these questions of preparing for college. I don't like the term preparing because I think what you guys are doing is just as important as what you're going to do in 4 years. But in terms of like thinking about what life might be like after high school and feeling like you're prepared. For those of you, who have either friends or siblings who've gone through, university studies or things like that, how do you feel like your experience thus far has prepared you for what comes after Bennett Day? We'll start with you, Camilla. What do you say?
I think that the curriculum at Bennett is kind of structured around current event issues. I know that the teachers purposefully chose like the issue of democracy and civic participation because of the election. And so I feel like a lot of us, kind of like how Abby mentioned, how we're able to kind of gain a passion for a certain topic throughout the whole 4 years at Bennett. And that's also kind of like written in the way that the competencies are like structured. So like if we were to if we want to, we can go more in depth on a certain topic that we're passionate about and learn more and apply those things to like or like use those things to like apply to different colleges. But in terms of like actual like things and programs that we're doing for our future, Bennett Day connects with like a college counseling service called IvyWise, and from my personal experience, it's very helpful for me because I feel like I'm able to have someone there to help me throughout the whole 4 years, and it's a very like personal connection. And the people at IvyWise are really good at their jobs and they know what they're doing and they understand. Like my counselor, Miss Miller, she really understands like the things that I'm into and what might work for me. And we also, like 10th grade, also started SAT prep for the SAT, and that has also been very helpful if we choose to apply to a college that requires testing.
Could I ask you a quick follow-up on that, Camilla? I know you had your meeting with your counselor yesterday, right?
Mm-hmm.
What were you guys going through? Do you mind? You don't have to be detailed, but like what type of things do you talk about in those meetings?
So for the first 2 years, so freshman and sophomore, it's more about like what our interests are and what our passions are. and we don't really talk about like the idea of going to college just yet, but it's very like informal conversations. And Miss Miller was asking me what I was doing like over the summer and what I was doing in this trimester and how I felt about everything that was happening. But I know more into junior and senior year, we're going to start focusing on like what types of colleges we might be interested in.
Great. So I'm gonna there's a couple questions I want to ask you guys in general, because we're right in the middle right now of a really important part of the trimester. We had demo night last week, which is the public presentation, but this week we actually do something called presentations of learning, and that's the second half of the final, quote unquote, for the end of our trimester, where each of you has had to put together a 10 to 15 minute presentation about your learning. Can you tell me a little bit about what that experience is like, where you have to go back through all your old work, identify what you've done, and now get ready, because you're all presenting tomorrow at some point. Can any of you guys talk a little bit about what the experience has been like this week to put that together and to think about everything that you've done this trimester? What's your big takeaway right now?
I can answer that. I think the biggest takeaway is just being reflective over all the work that we've done. Personally, for me, a lot of the questions we have to answer is about things that we've grown as a person, like how we've grown as a person throughout this trimester, and not only in academics, but like outside of academics as well. So I feel like it's really reflective, and it also makes me realize like the things I have to work on for next trimester is really good.
So Abby, if you don't mind, how do you feel like you grew this trimester personally? Can you give us a preview of what you're going to talk about tomorrow?
I think one of the biggest things is like being able to talk in front of like big groups. Because for our elections, we had to pick a president and a vice president, and I definitely am not the type of person to go for a speaker role, but I kind of wanted to challenge myself this trimester so that going forward it would be easier for me to present to people. And I feel like I'm like really glad that I took the opportunity to actually present for demo night, because now I feel like I'm a lot more comfortable presenting to big groups. So that was one of the big takeaways.
Nice. Great. One of the other things that we ask you guys to do during this process is to identify the work you're most proud of, the things that you're most proud of. We put together yesterday we actually spent some time creating your college transcripts. You actually do your transcripts personally. We put them all together. And one of the things that we talk about is the work that we do that you're particularly proud of. So does anybody want to take a moment and brag about something that they felt really good about? What were you super proud of that you did this trimester that you're going to put into your presentation of learning when you talk about how you did this trimester? Anybody want to take a moment? I know this is going to be the one where no one wants to speak up, but does anybody want to just say, here's something I thought I was really happy with the way I did it?
I made a documentary for my demo night presentation, or like one of my projects, and my topic was the discrimination against Muslim women. And it was kind of stressful, like putting the actual editing the audio in the video. But in the end, I was really proud of it, and people were asking me questions about it, and I felt really good about it. Yeah, it was fun to.
Go ahead. Sorry, keep going.
It was just fun to talk about it and just explain why I chose that topic and what made me do a documentary.
I was going to ask you that. What was your reason behind choosing that topic?
So I think that there are a lot of issues in our society, but I think some of them, like the discrimination against Muslim women, are kind of under acknowledged, I guess, and they aren't talked about as much as they should be. Or some people, they'll be like, oh wow, this is a bad thing, this should stop, but nobody actually tries to come up with a plan or a solution, even if it's not being publicized. Just maybe this should happen, or this is what needs to happen in order for it to stop, or it to get better. And so I decided to do that.
Great.
In the form of a documentary, because those are always fun.
That's great. Nice. So there's a couple of other questions that tend to pop up during these types of conversations. One of which involves the idea of clubs and sports, and to what extent you're involved in those types of things. And there were a few people who actually submitted some questions in advance about clubs and sports. So I'm going to touch on those right now, and then I'm also going to put out there that anybody in the audience right now, if you'd like to add a question, go ahead and put it in the comments. And we've got a little bit of time here that we can actually address a few of those questions, and we can throw them out there to the students. So please go ahead and put comments next door here, and we'll answer them. But the ones that were submitted in advance, if you wouldn't mind taking a moment and talking a little bit about the idea of, obviously we're a small school, but have any of you guys been involved in clubs and sports in your time here at Bennett, and what was that like? I'm gonna start. I know actually, Abby, why don't you go ahead and start us off there with that?
So starting Bennett, I'm actually a swimmer. So I know that balancing out practices in school, it was like a big struggle, I guess. But also, the one thing that drew me to Bennett personally was that they have a lot of connections. So if one of your PE classes can be like your own practice time to go to actual like practice, or they can kind of like connect you with personal trainers for your own benefit if you're really like committed to the sport.
Right. And you're starting that next week, right? With some of our trainers next week, right? Yeah. So speaking of sports, I know we had a couple folks. I think. Well, let me first, Camilla. You did a sport through school last year, right?
Yeah, I did volleyball.
Yeah. So what was that like? What did you guys? How did the process go in terms of how the volleyball team got started?
Well, a group of us were really interested in like starting a volleyball team, and I think it was about like maybe 7 of us. And so we brought it up to one of our teachers, which then like brought it up to Mr. Moran, and we were able to get a lower school teacher who was interested in coaching the volleyball team. And from there, I think she was able to set up like a schedule for us. So we went like every Wednesdays or something after school, and we were able to go to like a gym that's a couple train stops away from Bennett. So it was pretty nice.
And you guys, how often did you meet as a team?
I think it was like once a week for a couple months.
Okay, great. And this is something because we had 7 folks who were interested. We were able to fill the team, and going forward, I think this is the kind of thing that as we grow, we'll probably have more teams of people who want to just jump in and get started with sports and clubs for that matter. Because I believe, if I'm right, I know we haven't obviously had the opportunity to do a lot of clubs this year due to the pandemic, but we had a few clubs last year. Is that right? Do you guys remember some of the clubs that we had last year? Did anybody do any clubs last year? I think we had a book club.
Drama.
What was that?
There was drama.
Yeah, there was drama, and there was a book club for a while, and there was definitely a few things that people put together. In terms of now, not everything, of course, goes through school, but in some cases, those of you guys who are really involved in sports, like Abby is, you are with swimming. Cam, I know you've got a sport that you're very intensely involved in. Can you tell us a little bit about how that experience has been like, being involved in sports relative to school?
Yeah, so I'm very into hockey. That's the only sport I've played like my whole life. I'm very into it. And I think one of the main things, one of the main reasons I came to Bennett was that the schedule would really help out my extra training schedule. So I'm able to not only go to school, go to a very good school, I get extra practice, and I get to further elevate my game and get better.
Good, great. And you're playing. How does it work? By the way, how does your schedule? I don't know if you can tell me a little bit. How does your hockey schedule work around your school schedule right now?
So right now that we're remote, it's actually it's every day I get to skate and work out. So because we have that lunch break from, I think it's 12 until like 2.
Yeah.
I skate at 12:30 to 1:30, and then class at 2, and then we end at like 3:45, 4, and then after that, I'm able to get a workout in. So it's definitely a full day for me, but it's what I want. I want to get better, and for my day to be flexible, it's amazing. And then on Wednesdays, it's even more flexible because it tends to be like a shorter day, more relaxed and more kind of focused on like work that you need to get done and like talk to your teachers. It's even easier on that day.
Great. Okay, so we have another question that got put in advance. It's a pretty general question. So anybody who wants to answer this, you all made the choice to come here at some point, whether it was 2 years ago or last year. And you all, I know because I was involved in the admissions process, you all had a number of options for where to go. Why did you choose Bennett Day in the first place? What was your original choice when you made it? What made you choose to come to Bennett Day? So if anybody would like to approach that.
I can take that question. The main reason why I came to Bennett was because of its like approach to learning and the curriculum. I really liked how like with PBL it was going to be more like hands-on and more like personalized, which I feel is something that other schools that I was looking into like it really lacked. Like it was very traditional. The schedule was very structured and everything, and it just felt like a very like happy and like easy to ease into like environment. And I know that throughout the whole process, Ms. Kastrunis and Mr. Moran, you guys were like very helpful. And that's something that I didn't really see in other schools because the admissions for the other schools were so large. It kind of like led me to think, like if like the admissions team is very kind and friendly, I bet like the teachers are too. And it was just like the fact that the community was very very like kind and welcoming.
Great. Anyone else want to take a shot at that one? What made you decide to come to Bennett Day?
I guess I can take that one. My school was kind of like Bennett because it was a Montessori school, and the environment was really similar to what Bennett Day is. And when I went into shadow for the school, at first I thought it was just like when we went in, everybody was really, really nice, and it was just a really good environment. At first I thought it was kind of fake just because they were buttering you up just to come to the school. But now that I'm here, it's the truth. Everybody's just how they are, and it's a really trustworthy environment, and I respect that.
Great, thanks, Christian. Anyone else on that one? Okay, we have a question from the audience that came up, Abby, for you specifically. They wanted to know, do you swim competitively? Is it through a club or is it with Bennett Day? Could you talk a little bit about your swimming experience?
Yeah, I swim competitively, but at the YMCA, so it's like considered a club. But right now we're not doing any like competitive practices. It's just honestly like what goes with your schedule. So since Bennett is kind of like what Camden said, it's very flexible. I'm allowed to swim more hours and also get more workouts in that I need to get better for the next season. Great.
Okay, I think we got all the questions we got from the audience here. There is really a couple minutes left, so I'm gonna ask you one. I'm gonna close on one last question, and I'm gonna try to get each of you to think about your answer here before you answer it, because I think obviously the people who are watching today are all considering Bennett Day as a school, as one of the possible schools that they'll be attending, and so my question for you guys is, what is, if you were talking with the people who are watching right now, and you wanted them to remember one thing about Bennett Day that they need to remember when they're making their decision in a few weeks, what would be the one thing that you would say to them that they should know about Bennett Day that you think would help them make the decision about what the school is and why they might want to come here?
So the one thing that I would say is that the teachers are there for you. They want you to ask questions. They want you to be honest, and they want you to communicate with them. If you need to get an extension, or you need extra help on a math assignment or a history assignment, they are there for you. Like, I can't express it enough, but they are always open, and they want you to be honest with them.
Yeah, I that if you're looking for a place where you want community and you want to be surrounded by people who will build you up and kind of try to help you be your best self, then I think Bennett is a great option to consider.
I think also with the fact that it's not normal grading and we also don't take tests, it's really, I think from this trimester, it was really easy for me to focus on the skills that I was actually learning about and the ones I was actually showing, instead of worrying about whether or not we passed the class or not.
Something else that I feel was very important to like ask yourself throughout this whole like process, which is like, and it's very difficult and expensive, but like what's actually gonna, like, what choice in school is actually gonna make you feel like happy and feel welcome. And I feel like Bennett is kind of that place, because it's very positive and uplifting, kind of like what Micaiah said, and it's very easy to make connections and to fit in. And I feel like just with the student body, it feels like a very strong community.
Okay.
Like a family.
Nerd. Thank you. That's a very nice sentiment, Rikai. That's a very nice sentiment. Okay. So I think we're just about at our hour here. So I want to take a moment and thank all of you guys, not only for myself, but for the audience as well. I'm going to thank you personally, because I love you all dearly and think of you as such wonderful young people, and I'm so proud that you're at the school. So that's most importantly, I want to say that. And I enjoy hanging out with you guys and making fun of you guys as often as I can, but at the same time, having a good time. So I want to thank you guys for being willing to share your thoughts, to connect here, and to tell people a little bit about what the school is like. So thank you very much. I want to thank everybody who is in the audience, who got a chance to listen to these brilliant, wonderful students talk about their experience. And if you have any questions that you didn't think of, that you weren't able to put into the comments, feel free to send an email to Ms. Kastrunas or to me to follow up. I'm sure I can connect you with any one of these students who can give you a little bit more details on any of the questions that they answered. But with that, I want to say thank you all for attending tonight, and I hope you all have a wonderful evening.